When you're told you have premature ovarian insufficiency or premature menopause, it can feel like the door is closing for your fertility, but these terms don't always mean the same thing. And understanding the difference is essential, especially if you're still hoping to try to conceive. In today's episode of POI versus early menopause, what's the difference and why it matters for fertility? We're breaking down exactly what's happening hormonally in each condition, why they're often confused, and how a functional fertility approach can identify what's reversible, what's not, and how to best support your body. You'll learn what the labs are telling you, what signs to look for, that your ovaries may still be active, and how to support hormone communication, egg health, and overall vitality, even if your cycle has stopped. Let's go. Welcome back. I'm Sarah Clark, founder of FabFertile. For over a decade, my team and I have helped hundreds of couples improve their chances of pregnancy success, whether naturally or through IVF. We specialize in supporting those with low AMH, high FSH, diminished ovarian reserve, premature ovarian insufficiency, and recurrent pregnancy loss through functional testing and personalized fertility strategies. This episode is for you as if you've been told you have premature ovarian insufficiency, premature menopause, or early menopause, and you want to understand whether your ovaries have truly stopped functioning or if there's still activity that can be supported. You're under 45 and you've noticed irregular or missing cycles, hot flashes, high FSH, and you want to know what steps to take from a functional fertility lens, or you felt dismissed or told it's over, but you want to explore testing, nutrition, mind-body strategies that can help your hormones and ovaries recover function naturally or alongside medical care. Thanks so much for listening. I'm so thankful that you're here. Make sure you hit subscribe or follow. And if you know someone else who is on the fertility journey, please share this podcast with them. We're talking all about POI, premature insufficiencies, and different terms with this and really what this can mean. So we're going to start off with premature ovarian insufficiency before the age of 40. So I was diagnosed with POI at 28. Back then, it was called premature ovarian failure. Now they've changed the wording to be premature ovarian insufficiency. And essentially, it means the ovaries are not functioning normally, but they have not completely shut down. So typically irregular or missing periods. So for me, it went irregular. We see this a lot with our clients. It's been irregular for a while. Then all of a sudden it starts being missed periods, not coming for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, but not always gone. Often the FSH is high, but FSH does fluctuate each cycle, typically above 25. So the key message here is that POI means there's still ovarian activity left. Ovulation can return. We do see this, and natural pregnancy is still possible. So from a functional fertility standpoint, POI is about dysregulation. So it's not permanent loss. We look for why the communication between the brain and the ovaries is broken down from an autoimmune issue, from a nervous system dysregulation, from nutrient deficiencies, from thyroid, all of this piece, as long as it's idiopathic POI and not genetic, although we do work with people that have genetic, but typically most people we work with are idiopathic. So you don't have the Fragile X, you don't have the Turner syndrome. You've got the genetic piece and you've got that out of the way. So I'm just thinking a number of people here that we have. So Rebecca, she was 27. She had a premature ovarian insufficiency. Her AMH was at 0.04. She got pregnant naturally after 4 or 5 months following our FabFertile method. Amanda, her AMH was at 0.08. She had premature ovarian insufficiency. She got pregnant with us after about a year, went on to have her daughter. Sarah, who came in and said she was a great case study, she had an AMH of 0.08 and then went on after 4 months. She also had autoimmune issues, multiple gut issues. So all of these followed our FabFertile method, worked on their health, and Sarah got pregnant after 4 months naturally. So I never want to sugarcoat. This is a tough diagnosis, but if you run around doing a bunch of protocols, working with practitioners that really don't understand this, because it is very multifactorial. It's not just the one thing. Hey, you should go gluten-free. Hey, let's look at your stress. Maybe you have nutrient issues. Like it's not just one thing that typically moves the needle. Although sometimes we do see people make one change and it happens, but usually it's multifactorial. And a lot of the times it's the stress that has tilted things all the wrong way. All your biomarkers, your blood work, and then we look at testing, and then we start to nourish the adrenals, nourish the body, and help the body feel safe to procreate, then the cycle can come back. So our goal is always, depending on where you are with the cycle, to bring the cycle back, and then we continue. Sometimes people do cycle monitoring too to see what's happening with the follicles as things start to come back so you can catch ovulation and get pregnant. Typically with IVF, they're going to tell you it's donor eggs for you, or you've got to rush to an IVF because things are depleting as we speak, but that's not the case. We need to work on your health. You can get pregnant naturally, or you can use IVF when we've built that strong foundation. So then we hear premature menopause. So also before the age of 40, what it means is the ovaries have stopped working completely and cycles have been absent for more than 12 months. And also that the FSH is staying high. So sometimes it's the final stage of premature ovarian insufficiency. A lot of these terms, it's like the terms are there to diagnose, but I remember I was listening to a podcast years ago and talking about a guy that came in. He was covered from head to toe with rashes. And they had a dermatologist convention. And about 50 to 100 dermatologists came up to this man and tried to say, what it was. He had dermatitis, he had hives, he had all these different clinical names for what he had. But it didn't really matter. When he went gluten free, the head to toe rash went away. So instead of just like pointing the finger and trying to diagnose what it is, let's look under the hood and see what's driving, in this case, what's driving the reproductive system to shut down. And so, from a functional fertility standpoint, we don't want to be blind to a diagnosis of premature menopause. Maybe you've been told that and your cycle has gone away for years. We have had people with no cycle for years brought back their cycle in their 40s. We've had people at 44 with an AMH of 0.02 being told donor eggs are the only option, getting pregnant naturally. So if it can happen for them, it can happen for you. But I'm not here to give false hope, right? This is a tough one. And so we need to be able to catch ovulation. And if the ovarian function can flicker back on, we can then see if the body is in a strong position to support the reproductive health and pregnancy. And if you're supported hormonally and the right nutrition and the nervous system dysregulation, then we see the period come back. So our goal is wherever you are with the period, if it's irregular, we want it to get regular. If you're not ovulating, we want to bring the ovulation back in. So we're looking at the cycle, but we don't just look at the cycle and do ovulation predictor kits and use the Mira, which we like, and we use the Aneto, which we like to test your hormone levels with urine. But we also need to look beyond that because just testing every month can become very triggering. We need to look at all the biomarkers, what else is driving the hormones to be off. And then we have early menopause. So we've got premature ovarian insufficiency, we've got premature menopause, and then early menopause. And so some of these terms are used interchangeably. Basically, we've got to look at your health and dig deeper. Early menopause between 40 to 45 has occurred earlier than average. Most women reach around 50 to 51. It's still the same physiology as menopause, is just happening sooner, but we need to look at the underlying imbalances, what's driving it, the stress, inflammation. So I've talked a lot about high sensitivity C-reactive protein. We want that below 1. Yours is elevated. We see it a lot. And there's stressors from food sensitivities, gut infections, environmental toxins, your adrenals, your thyroid's mismanaged. You're not getting enough B vitamins because your methylation pathways, you have the MTHFR gene variant. You have gut issues. This can accelerate early menopause. And so we've had people, like we just said, regaining their period in their 40s. People 43, 44 going on to get pregnant naturally with low AMH and high FSH. So the focus is always your health. It's not about thinking donor eggs are the only option or rushing to an IVF. That is there, but we need to deploy it at the right time. There's a lot of push right now for the PRP, the platelet-rich plasma, but we see that doesn't work. And I have people spending a lot of money on this stuff, rushing around North America, and clinics are like, wait a minute, with POI or diminished ovarian reserve, there's not much we can do. So let's give them a PRP and wake up the ovaries, but the body wasn't ready to sustain pregnancy. And many times we see that couples are passing infections back and forth, and there's something going on with his semen as well. So we need to look at his semen, the DNA fragmentation. If the embryos, if it's implanting, but it's not making it, and you're having pregnancy losses, looking at the quality of the eggs and the quality of the semen. 90 days to improve egg quality. The life cycle of the sperm is 70 to 80 days. So we need to do this in a targeted manner, looking at your health. So that's the definition. So really, it's a spectrum. POI is where your ovaries are still trying, but they haven't completely stopped. Premature menopause, the ovaries may have gone quiet before the age of 40. Early menopause, around 40 to 45, it's still menopause, just earlier than expected. But why did the ovaries slow down? Why did they stop early? And can we support them to function again? So we see people that haven't had very low follicles or none have the follicles come back. This is tough though. When you've got this diagnosis, that diagnosis can worm its way into your subconscious and you start thinking, oh, there's nothing I can do. I'm doomed. So at each step, we work on our health. We can look at testing in black and white so we can see if we're in a toxic relationship or a toxic work environment. All these pieces can then tip all of our biomarkers the wrong way. So we need to give ourselves grace. If you've just been diagnosed with this, it can just have you reeling, right? So, like, I know it firsthand, and I see it all the time, and I see a lot of people running around wasting a bunch of time. So send me a message at hello@fabfertile, subject line fertile, if you want to get my eyes on your specific situation. We have a whole team here that includes an OBGYN with a functional medicine background, functional nutrition practitioners, fertility mindset coaches, really put this all together. We ship the testing worldwide. We look at your blood work and give you a plan and specializing in this. If you go to a local practitioner, you can spend a bunch of money with people that just don't really understand this. Just look at some testing beyond the basics. The conventional testing is going to focus on FSH, estradiol, AMH, but the results can vary widely cycle to cycle. The functional side of things, we're looking at the underlying imbalances like we just talked about, contributing to the ovarian dysfunction, the thyroid. We don't want a normal thyroid. We want optimal. TSH below 2, we want to look at the full panel, free T3, free T4 antibodies, reverse T3, but we want those all in the optimal levels. I've got a whole podcast on this where I'll link below, but send me a message to hello@fabfertile, subject line thyroid. I'll send you our thyroid guide. So it'll tell you those exact optimal numbers you're looking for. So is it our whole thesis on this? Is it actually early menopause or is it your adrenals? So the adrenals impact the thyroid, impacts the AMH, the FSH, and the follicle count. And so we need to be able to boost up your mineral ratios because that can impact hormone signaling. And we do hair tissue mineral analysis. This is a cheapy test. We start with stool testing and bringing in food and some genetics, and then we can bring in the hair testing. If all your nutrients are low, the minerals are low, maybe you've got some heavy metals in there, this can really help fine tune this. We look at vaginal microbiome testing. We do the health of the gut microbiome, and then that helps work on the health of the vaginal microbiome. So if you've got hidden infections such as uroplasma or dysbiosis, that can impact ovarian and hormonal health, and we can pass infections back and forth. Sometimes we got to bring in the seminal microbiome. Maybe that's why the embryos aren't making it, especially with pregnancy loss. If you are going in, if you've got an embryo and you're waiting to transfer, we have got to do this beforehand. Your gut health, your vaginal microbiome, because you got this beautiful embryo, it's ready, and it could be because there's infections, and that's why it's not making it. So we've got to dot the I's, cross the T's, not beat yourself up because you didn't know this stuff. If you're here right now, you can learn about it. I've been doing this podcast for almost 8 years now. 8 years of never missing a week. I don't know how I've done it, but I'm very consistent and over 1 million downloads. It's being able to educate you because when I was diagnosed with this over 25 years ago, no one told me any of this information. So if you found it, there's things you can do. We work with type A, action-oriented people. And even if you're feeling in a low place right now, maybe you've got all those symptoms of hot flashes or night sweats or insomnia or mood swings, you're feeling really low, we can bring in some of the bioidentical hormones, get you feeling better, and then we can start working on some of this stuff. It's meeting you where you are, and we specialize in this. And then we bring in genetic testing. So you're not just throwing spaghetti at the wall and guessing what to do from a diet and lifestyle standpoint, taking a bunch of supplements, following the Mediterranean diet, all these generalized recommendations. We want to be able to get the diet that's right for you. So the other guide I have is the elimination diet, taking out the top allergens, systematically reintroduce them. Send me a message at hello@fabfertile.ca, subject line 10-day, and we'll tell you exactly which foods to take out, which are dairy, gluten, soy, corn, peanuts, eggs, processed sugar, alcohol. Take them out for 10 days. You can do anything for 10 days and then systematically reintroduce them. You and your partner, not just you. You're doing it together. And then being able to fine tune this with the genetic testing, especially if you have pregnancy losses. This can help improve pregnancy outcomes, support the body with all the different nutrients that you need based on your genetic SNPs, and personalize this. And so what could be driving the ovarian shutdown? So autoimmunity. I've done multiple episodes on autoimmune issues over the years. We've helped many people with Hashimoto's, celiac, ulcerative colitis go on to get pregnant when they've gone through multiple failed IVFs, but no one looked at the fact that they have an autoimmune issue and the body's on fire. And thyroid antibodies, we like the TPO below 10, the TBG below 30. If it's 300, 400, that could be why things aren't working. That can impact your ovarian function, inflammation, so the elevated high sensitivity C-reactive protein and homocysteine. This can impair follicle development and hormone conversion, the nervous system dysregulation, chronic cortisol elevation. It can impact your ovulation. And so even if you don't feel stress, the body might feel stress. Environmental triggers such as toxins and mold and all the chemicals we're exposed to, maybe that's what's causing the ovarian function to go down. So as we start to minimize those, use our testing to help take some of those toxins out of your body. You've got to do this in a gentle way. This is not you on a harsh parasite cleanse, a harsh detox. You're going to kick it out. No, we don't want to do that. I can see people that really destroy their bodies by doing that and just following these recommendations that is not right for reproductive health. Those studies linking autoimmune thyroid disease and POI, research showing that improved ovarian function when inflammation and oxidative stress are reduced. So I have a podcast episode all on that, on autoimmune issues. 1/5, they're saying, of POI can be autoimmune issues. Some functional strategies to support ovarian health. Nutrition. Yeah, you want to do anti-inflammatory, nutrient-dense, omegas, adequate protein. We don't want to be on a vegan diet right now. Many people actually have come to us and I'm like, why are you vegan? I just thought it was healthier. Yeah, it's better than eating processed food, but you can also do dirty vegan, dirty keto, these things where you're just doing a whole bunch of packaged foods, or in this case, maybe not enough protein. Obviously, the vegans are going to argue that, of course, you can get enough protein. So if you are vegan or vegetarian and you are not willing to change that, we have got to look at your protein intake. We're not going to force you to eat meat, but if you're open-minded and ready to look at this, we can do things to make sure your body gets enough protein because that's important for your hormones. So nutrition is key. Mineral balance, we do that hair tissue mineral analysis to look at your calcium, your magnesium, your copper and zinc ratios. That can influence your ovarian activity. The mitochondria support. So a lot of us are probably already taking the CoQ10 or ubiquinol. That can help with egg energy and metabolism. The gut support, many of us are not doing this, or we've done one little protocol from a stool test. I see people do one stool test. I'm like, where's the protocol? They didn't even give me a protocol. What? You'll always have a protocol. If you're not pregnant, there's something that's not working. There's something that's being missed. Just doing one test and not even getting a protocol off the test is not serving you. Or maybe you've done everything. People tell me I've done it all. I'm like, have you done anything with your diet? No. Or maybe just started to eat organic, but they're still eating gluten. They got the top allergens, and this is causing inflammation in your body. We need to address the infections. You can eat the most pristine diet. You haven't addressed all the gut infections. That could be why it's impacting your ovarian reserve. And then also the mind body work, lots of studies linking IVF success actually with reducing stress and with mind body work. That's why we have mindset coaches in here to be able to help reset your nervous system, give you hope. This is key. If you've got POI, that diagnosis can worm its way into your subconscious and you start thinking, oh, and then if you're in panic and worry, that's not when the baby comes in. We need to be feeling safe, being able that the body wants to procreate. So the mind body work is essential. And that's why we have those mindset coaches. This is not about me guaranteeing anything. We need to work on your health. And ovarian function can return, not in everyone. It doesn't return in everyone. But if you haven't looked at this, you have missed a whole side of things that your REI is not trained in. They're trained to do medications and surgeries. They're not trained to look at any of this piece. We want to include them on your team, but we don't go just to them. They tell you donor eggs and you go, oh, I better save my money up for that. Or they tell you got a little shot with IVF and you do that. You spend $20,000 on one round. There's clinics that offer it cheaper, obviously, but it's typically sold in packages of 3. And we think that's our option, but you don't have a medication deficiency. There's something going on with your body. So we need to work on your health first. Using testing, doing this in a targeted manner. It's not just, I'm going to eat a healthy lifestyle. Yeah, great. Do that. Don't eat the processed food. Don't eat the fast food. But we got to go deeper, genetics and food sensitivity testing, gut microbiome, the vaginal microbiome, looking at your adrenals. All this stuff is key so we don't waste time. We're not anti-IVF. Then we have a whole IVF readiness checklist. When are you ready to go to IVF? And obviously that's a personal decision. And you need to deploy it at the right time, the PRP, platelet rich plasma. Once you've done all the foundational work, you can do that and then do an IVF. And we see people that it hasn't worked before, then it goes on to work. And then you look at the testing, educate yourself on what's going on with your health. Don't listen that, hey, everything looks normal. It's all great. You don't have the genetic side of things. Oh, great. That's good. You don't have the Fragile X or the Turner syndrome. But what about your inflammatory markers? What about maybe you have the MTHFR? What about that the thyroid is normal, but you've got antibodies in the thyroid? Your reverse T is elevated. You have a food sensitivity, that non-celiac gluten sensitivity, or maybe you have an autoimmune disease. When you work on the foundational piece, that can help you respond better to the medical interventions. And so we can bring in some bioidentical hormones, depending on your symptoms, that can be part of it. And then the whole idea is to potentially reduce those as well. But we can bring in some progesterone or some estradiol there to help. But by itself, the HRT is a band-aid. So we don't just go on, please don't go on synthetic HRT. You want to do bioidentical. But even the bioidentical, you've got to make the target diet and lifestyle changes along with it. So POI and premature menopause are not the same. And the diagnosis doesn't mean that fertility is impossible. We need to look at the underlying issues of what's going on with your health. The functional testing, like we have here with our FabFertile method, can help pinpoint so you know exactly what's happening and you can be educated about your health. You don't need to rely on a doctor that's going to gatekeep this information from you. We can work on your nutrition, your stress regulation, supplementation to support the hormonal communication. And then we want to be able to, when we're ready, when we've addressed the infections, we've reduced inflammation, your biomarkers have come back online and they're in the optimal range. Got people running off to IVF and they're anemic and their iron is low and their ferritin is low and they're wondering why things aren't working and their thyroid is off. And there's a whole bunch of issues. We need to have a healthy pregnancy and a healthy postpartum period and a healthier child. We always, what the health is first, and then if we want to deploy the medical interventions. And so if you want to get my eyes on your specific situation, send me a message at hello@FabFertile, subject line fertile, and I will give you some options to help. Take care.